Well, good afternoon and welcome back again, Realty Pros. Today we have a treat. We have our very own Steve Hoover with us, our Bright coach. And Steve is going to be training on quite a number of things that we've been talking about in our training. So your Remine, doing a refresher on Remine for us, and how to do a deep dive into Bright MLS as we prospect for listings. So go ahead and give your attention to Steve. Steve, you go ahead, you feel free to share your screen and let's get started.
There we go. I was muted. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Hoover. I've been here before, customer success coach for Bright. I cover Prince George's, Montgomery, and Washington, D.C., and temporarily Southern Maryland and Anne Arundel County. So we'll see. Keeping me busy. Today, it's going to be split up in two parts. We're going to talk about Remine. I'm going to go over the prospecting aspect of Remine. And then we'll get into some what I kind of call bright tips and tricks, which will make you hopefully more efficient in how to search the database, little tricks to get the information out much easier for you. But let's talk about Remine first. That's where I want to start. And accessing Remine. Easiest way, of course, click on your search option, opens up this menu, which you're all familiar with. At the bottom of the second column, there is a Remine Pro link.
Steve,
yes.
Excuse me, is yours, I'm not seeing anything. Is your screen actually up? Are you sharing?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything.
Has anybody else seeing it, not seeing it?
No, it's not up yet.
Ran into this yesterday. I'm going to plug directly. I'm not sure what it is. I'm going to plug directly into my router instead of using the Wi-Fi, but I'm not sure that's going to make any difference, but we shall see.
There it is. There it is. We can see it now.
Okay. Excuse me. All right. To access Remine, you see the menu open. I don't hear anything.
Yes.
Okay. Down here at the bottom, it says Remine Pro. And you're going to click there. It'll open up a new window. Do you see the new Remine window?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and charge forward then. Hopefully we have gotten through whatever issues we were having. Let's go right to search in Remine and talk about what we're going to see here. If you click here, you actually have two toggles now. Of course, excuse me, the database includes all of the Bright active listings, but we're more interested in properties that are not on the market. And that's the second option, properties. Now, what we're looking at here is obviously a map of the Eastern Shore of Maryland and Delaware. If I scroll over a bit and scroll in a bit and basically kind of get to the area that you are in, you'll see the number here drops, because what it is displaying are the number of properties. And these are properties that are off the market or on the market in the map. Okay. Now, even though I have properties selected, it is still showing active properties here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter off market. And I think, all right, I thought I had unchecked those. They must be automatic or something. You can add the filter here for status, and that's obviously what we want, but we also want the off market status filter. So I'm going to add that, because the off market allows me to just look at the properties that are not in the MLS, because we want to eliminate ones like we see over here, which are on market, which are for sale. So by clicking there, now we have just properties off the market. I'm going to scroll down a bit, and as we get closer, you'll see this number drops. We're down to 429 or 1165, 95, and And you can actually see each individual dot is a property. Let's go over to a subdivision somewhere. There's a subdivision. And as you can see, each individual dot is a property. And let me click on one of these at random. And as you see, it comes right up. There it is. I'm going to open this up. Let's take a look at the information we can get from an off-market property. Now, this property probably was on the market at some time because it has all these photos. If it was off the market, it might just show a Google Street Shot view or nothing at all. So this is the information we have. Actually, sale closed. Okay, it closed recently, 12 days on the market. So that's the reason it was listed here. There's the closed price, etc. I prefer to find one that hasn't been on the market. That's the one thing when you just click at random, you never know what you're going to get. Of course, that may not be anything. Let's click here. Oh, okay. Let's go where there's some regular houses here. Try some off here. Let me just grab this one. Okay. All right. This is a Google Street Map view. It hasn't been on the market. It is off market. Basically some basic information about it, how long it was owned, year built, bedrooms, baths, value we'll talk about in a minute. You can share this with anybody by clicking here and emailing it to somebody. Save it to a cart. We'll talk about carts a little later on. And you can create a CMA using the Remine program. It's a basic CMA program you can use and print. You can print it. All right, so we have public records about this, and we also have some maps. All right, so if I open up the maps, you have a parcel view, flood risk view, location view, and there is satellite. You can also have satellite view of it. There it is. And street view, which of course we've already seen. That is the Google Street Map view. Other information. Down here, again, some basic information about it. A lot of this is in the tax database. In fact, let me click Show All. And you see equity, 100% equity. There is no mortgage on this. All right. If there was a mortgage on this, it would show a percentage of equity and the value. We'll talk about value in a minute. And it would also actually show the old mortgage or the new mortgage actually, and what the balance is, that type of thing. Tax and assessment information here. And as you see, I'm not going to open all these, but you can see there is more information than, well, I am opening all those than listed. Property history. Last transaction in 2020 for 305. All right. Other information, sold price. And we can see all property history down here. 230, sold in 2018. Distressed property, foreclosure. Sold in 2013 for 160. And you can find some of this information in Bright, 127, 351. Gosh, all the way down at the bottom, 199, 900 in 2011. Okay. School information. Okay, these are local schools, public and private. They are graded, by the way, by a company, and there's a lot of private here. If they're within a reasonable distance, they list the private. That's why they're there along with public. There's a company down here called Niche, which will explain the grades on the schools. Valuation. See this 341, 745. Where'd this come from? Came from here. A company called First American came up with this estimated value. First American and Black Knight do appraisals, estimates for insurance companies, mortgage companies, that type of thing. And they have an estimated value here. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of difference between the two. There's Remine's estimated value and Redfin's estimated value, which is quite a range here. It's interesting. But the number you always see at the top or anywhere else in here is First American's estimated value of this property. This number comes from an average of all these. Okay. You can get air DNA. In other words, how much would this lease for daily if it was on the market as like an Airbnb. Demographics of the area. And then finally at the bottom, owners and associated people. It does list the owners here. Let's see. Here's the owners. There is no contact information for the owners, but if we look at the associated people, in other words, it could be spouses, offspring, renters. There is some contact information from them. So let's open up this one, for instance. And as you see, Richard, there is a phone number on Do Not Call, but there are some email addresses for Richard. Paul here has one phone number that is not on Do Not Call. And this person has an email address and two phone numbers that are on Do Not Call. So a lot of times you can get information for the owners also, but none today. So that's a type of information that you can get for off-market properties. So how can you use that information? Let's close this down. And by the way, this is a nationwide database of properties. See up here where it says nationwide search? You can search any properties in all 50 states for off-market properties. Okay. So how would you use this information to figure out whether somebody might be ready or willing to sell their property? You can search by addresses, cities, zip codes, neighborhoods. Neighborhoods are tricky. Sometimes you'll find them, sometimes you won't. MLS regions. I'm going to search by a zip code. Okay. And the zip code this particular property and it is in. All right, Upper Marlboro, click here, and there is that zip code. There are over 20,000 off-market properties in that zip code. So we're going to apply some, and actually what you could do actually within that, we could use these map items. Let's say if I just want to do a certain area, works just like the one in Bright. Let's cut down on the area a bit. All right, now we're doing 10,000 plus. Let's close the zip code. All right, so let's say if you're doing a zip code or neighborhood search and you want to find the people most likely to be wanting to sell the property, we're going to use these filters. Okay. Most useful ones for that would be home equity. Because if you think about it, you're going to have some equity to sell your property. If somebody moved in last year, they probably have very little equity and, you know, wouldn't be able to sell. So you can decide what the minimum amount would be. I'm just going to put 150,000. Okay, that's just a random number. You can use these ranges if you want. I prefer just to put in a minimum with no maximum. So we have over 10,000 results. Let's click apply and see what happens. All right, cuts it in half, 5123. Ownership time. All right, how often do people change, move, essentially? You can make a decision there. I'm going to use NAR's national average, which is about every 8 years. So we'll put in 8 years and I'll click apply and we're going to see how many people have, there we go, 1,858 have at least 150,000 in equity and they've lived there at least 8 years. Okay, you think they might be people that you might contact to see if they might be interested in selling. Well, before you do that, there is a third possibility and it's called a sell score. And you may have noticed over here, this one has a low sell score, low sell score. What are sell scores? Let's go back to my PowerPoint and talk about sell scores. Okay, they come in high, medium, or low. What are they? They are, sell score is a machine learning model, like an algorithm that identifies which off-market residential properties are more likely to be listed sooner than others in the area, measured as high, medium, and low. High, of course, means property is more likely to sell within 6 months to 1 year than surrounding properties. Medium, the property is about as likely to sell within 6 months to 1 year as surrounding properties, and low, less likely to sell within 6 months to 1 year. It is calculated based on this type of data: square footage of the property, bedrooms, bathrooms, value of the property, financial information. In other words, when did it last sell? How much equity is in the property, and also neighborhood values or averages. Is this a high turnover neighborhood, low turnover neighborhood? So they put all that type of data into the calculation to come up with the sell score. So how accurate is it? Well, nationally, a property with a high sell score is 5 to 10 times more likely to be listed in the next 6 months to a year than a random off-market property. Sell score is not perfect, of course. Remine's feedback rate shows over a 50% accuracy rate. So you could, if you want to, also apply a sell score, because we do have 1,858 results. That's a lot. So let's apply a sell score. Let's apply a high sell score. Okay. Click apply. And we're down to 34. Okay. Let's add medium just to see what we get there. Almost as good as high, but not as, but better than low. We have 190. All right. That's a lot to, and we're going to look at some of these a little later on. So I'm just going to remove the medium just so we have, we'll have this amount, 34. All right. So these all have high sell scores. They have 150,000 in equity at the minimum. And they've lived there at least 8 years or more. All right. So now we want to put them in a format where we can deal with them, you know. For instance, do we want to print them out in some format? Yes. Now I can select them individually. I can click them here to open up them individually, but I want to select them all. Select all. Okay, so I've selected all 34. And now I'm going to put them into a cart. See up here where it says cart. We're going to put them in this cart, and it's going to ask us for a name, or we can put them into an existing cart, but I'm going to create a new one. I'm just going to call it zip 20772. Add the properties. Okay, success. 34 properties added to zip 20772. And if I wanted to run this on a regular basis, this search, you can save the search up here, give it a name, and then you can access your saved searches on the left side over here. All right, but let's look at the carts now that I put them in a cart. So I click carts. It's going to open up this top cart, the one I just created, and put it at the top of the list. All of them things will be delayed. Here are all my other carts, by the way. And here are the 34 properties. Now I can click on each individual one if I want to look at them, but I'm going to select them all because I want to get them in some kind of format that I can print them out. Okay. So we have 3 options up here: export, send mailers, and more. So first, I'm going to export them to a CSV spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet. So the first thing it's going to ask is, what do you want to name this file? And not being an original thought person, I'm going to give it the same name. There we go. Also, what columns do you want to export? You will note there's a lot of information for each individual property. Do I need all that information? No. Okay, so what I've done is I've already selected the information I want, and I then clicked make these my default export settings, so I don't have to reset this each time. Okay, so we're going to export them, and it says success will notify you in a few minutes when your download is ready. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means we will be notified when we have that spreadsheet ready, and that could be anywhere from 15 seconds to a couple minutes. How will I know it's ready? A little green bar will appear all across the top of the screen here. Also, under alerts, the little red button will appear. Okay, and then I can click here and it will be displayed here. Now, the green bar will be up there for about 15 or 20 seconds and then disappear. But the red button will remain here and my link will remain here. Okay, till it goes off the bottom of the screen there, you might say. So while we're waiting, let's look at a couple of the other options. Let's look at this third option called More. And we can then print mailing labels if we prefer. So I click Mailing Labels, and I can have the property owner's name on the mailing labels, or it can say current resident. It really depends on who you're sending these to. because there are additional filters. We're going to look at those. So we could send it to absentee owners, we could send it to renters, that type of thing. And it's going to say you want to send it to the property address or the mailing address. Again, you want to send it to absentee owners, renters, your choice. And then you can pick whatever format, Avery mailing label format you want. And you click print labels. Okay, so here they are. I'm going to open them up, and there are our mailing labels. You just put your Avery mailing label into your printer and click print. And those are the mailing labels there. Okay. Let's close that. Close that. And there's the green bar. Now I could click download here if I like to. Again, the green bar will not stay there forever. It will disappear. But down here where it says alerts, see the red button? I can always go down here and click here to download. So let's go ahead and download that. Let's open this up. It's going to open up your Excel spreadsheet. Okay, and all the columns that I selected are listed. Notice the columns are exactly the same width. Okay, kind of obscures the information. So let me show you a little trick here. This is an Excel spreadsheet trick. I'm going to highlight everything. I'm going to go all the way across to this first entry. See the double arrow there on that top line? I'm going to double click. Watch what happens. It opens up every field exactly as wide as it needs to be to fit all the information in. Okay. So as I scroll over, let's take a look to the email entry. And their email addresses. Interesting email for this person, Smile. There's an email address for this person. There's email addresses down here. There's an interesting one right there. Okay. But as you see, these are people that have high sell scores. They've been in the property long enough. They have enough equity. You might send them, hey, you might send them a mailer and then follow up with an email. You also have, let's scroll over a little bit. Went too far. These are email addresses for the second owner. Phone numbers, there are the phone numbers. And again, they list whether they're on do not call. All these three, not on do not call. Here's one, not on do not call. If they have DNC next to them, they're on the do not call list. Obviously, you don't call them, but you can call these other people. Do you call them after you send them out a mailer? Possibly. So it gives you that option too. And you can think of this as farm area. Maybe it's the area of your farm, or maybe you're working with a buyer that wants to buy a property in that neighborhood and there's nothing for sale. You could go into that neighborhood and find these particular people and contact them. Oh, hey, are you interested in selling? I have a buyer interested. You know, that type of thing. Okay. What was that third option? Send mailers. You don't want to take the trouble to print the mailing labels and do all that work. Hey, there's a company that will do that for you called this company, Send Mailers. I'm going to give it the same zip here. Have to give it a name, build mailing campaign. And there we go. There's a company out here that will do mailers for you, postcards, 3 different sizes, letters, yellow letters, and snap-aparts. And as you see, for the amount, 34 pieces, it's $23.80 for the small postcards. The larger ones, a bit more. And then your letters, yellow letters, and your snap-aparts. So you can select what you want. Click there, you'll get the cost, the total cost. And then you can go down here, you can have different items. You can select your design and give them a credit card. They'll take care of mailing it out, including mailing you a copy. So this company will do the work for you and give you nice, really nice mailers. And you don't have to, you just kind of set everything up for them. Okay. Questions on that?
Okay, Steve, you went through that pretty quickly.
Okay, yeah,
And I
I had
missed
a lot I wanted to cover. What do you need?
I missed a couple of things while I was taking notes. So
Sure.
one of them was when you first did when you first selected all at the very top, when we were just, yeah, there. How did you select all? Where was that?
Right here.
Right here. Oh, okay, thank you. At the top of
Right.
that column. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Right, otherwise you have to select each one separately, and that takes a lot of work.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, and then you're gonna put them in a cart. Okay,
Got that.
all right. Let's look at a couple other filters. Absentee owners, corporate owners, owner occupant, in-state, out-state, absentee owners. These are additional filters you could add. Flood zone risk, building type, maybe you're just looking at condos or townhomes, you can add that filter. Land use is just the different types. You have residential. I'm just thinking of ones that would make the most sense. Perhaps mortgage age, I'm not sure. That is a possibility. Here's your distressed deals. Okay. So you can actually select foreclosures and trustees and use those filters too. So again, there's additional filters here for you to apply. Let's say I'm looking at absentee. I'm curious, absentee in and out of state. Out of those 34, how many are absentee? There we go. So we looked at in-state, out-of-state. So the 4 of them were absentee owners. The other 30 were owner occupied or corporate ownership. It's interesting how many I've run into as corporate ownership. Let's see, 34, and it goes to two corporate ownership there. Interesting. But owner occupied, it should come out to 32. I got my, or 28. That's right, it was 4. Okay. So again, you can add different filters. Yes.
So as far as the absentee owners are concerned, so you identified 4 of them. Thank you so much for the training.
Sure.
You identified 4 of them. Is there a way to get contact information on those absentee owners as well? Is that the same thing by selecting them and then going in and
Right.
looking at?
Right, if I was just interested in the absentee, okay, and I applied that, and we found the 4, then I could then select all, put them in a cart, and say zip code, whatever, absentee owners, and I'd get that same kind of spreadsheet. The
Right.
spreadsheet would have just have the absentee. The absentee owners are in here somewhere, and that could be one of the columns if it was important to me. I don't know if I'm not sure I ever picked that particular column. And offhand, I do not see it. So I'm assuming that wasn't one of the columns that I felt was important. But I could have, and then I would have included the absentee with this spreadsheet.
Okay.
They would have been there. Unless they're at the top here.
So, and if I would have just, made the search for absentee only, it would have come up with that 4. I could have saved it to the card as 20772 absentee owner, and then it came up in my spreadsheet, and I would have been able to from there see if there was any contact information.
Right. Yeah, I would then put them in a cart, and they would have come up. Well, and then we go through the same procedure.
Right.
And once we were in the cart, of course, we then hit export. The 4 would be here, and click export, and then you can open them up.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on Remine? Because Remine, that's the strength of this. Finding properties that people might be willing to sell. You also can, of course, property values. Maybe you want to just target high-end homes. You can always search those out instead by putting in, that filter. It gives you lots of opportunity to decide where and what you want to do with these filters. Okay. Any other questions on Remine? And if not, I'll move on to the other part of my training. Okay. Well, if you think of something, I'm going to leave this screen up so we can always come back here. And let's talk about tips and tricks. Okay. First thing you may have noticed when I went to the search screen, what do I have down here? I have the county and Washington, D.C. here automatically. How did that get there? I didn't enter it, right? I came right to the screen. Once you enter it, right there, go up to the gear here and click that, and it says set currently selected search criteria as my starting default. So you simply click that top line, and now that becomes your default. Okay. And it's a lot easier to say, oh, okay, I'm not searching DC today. Click, it's gone, than having to type it in when you need it. All right. So I would, if I was you, I would set the default to whatever. Maybe it's multiple counties you went in there, and if you're not going to search them, just click, click, and they're gone. Okay, a lot quicker. Continuing, let's see. A couple other things, well, quite a few other things to talk about. Neighborhood subdivision, how do you search that? Well, of course, let's say I'm searching Kettering. There's a lot in Kettering, a lot of neighborhood subdivisions. What if I want everything? Put an asterisk, which is called a wildcard at the beginning, and an asterisk at the end. I did it backwards, but doesn't matter. Click here. Now it will search every property that in Kettering with the subdivision name that has Kettering in it, whether Kettering is at the beginning, middle, or end of the word. Okay. But that may be too much. Maybe you prefer to select several of them. Now, one, obviously, you just start typing and, okay, well, I'm only interested in overlook condos. That's fine. You can do that. But what if there's multiple ones there? Then it's easier to click the file folder here. And I click there, and now I have a pick list. Okay. There's that condo. Maybe I want towns. Hold down your control key. Maybe I want this one. And I don't know, maybe I want this one. So you can select them from a pick list and then click OK, and it pops them in. A lot quicker than doing each one separately. All right. Zip codes. Now, obviously, you can search multiple zip codes. Actually, it would be help to get the, there we go. So multiple zip codes, comma, and I assume there's a 3. I don't know. I'm guessing. So we're searching multiple zip codes now. All right. What if you want to search every zip code in, let's get rid of DC here, in Prince George's County, except this one? How do you do that? You would put an exclamation point before it. Putting the exclamation point before it eliminates every property in this zip code. Okay, and to prove it, look down here. We have 1046. Once I remove this, you'll see that number will increase. 1135. Okay, so that's how you can not search a particular area or zip code, if you like, with the exclamation point. By the way, to remember some of this, you see these question marks here? Okay, gives you a little explanation. Okay, this is how you search that. Click the question mark to get more information. And there we go. It talks right here about the exclamation point, how to use that, how to search multiple zip codes. Okay, so it basically gives you that information that I just talked to you about. All right, let's put in DC again. I'm just going to do it the easy way, because I want to talk about single letter street names. DC has a boatload of single letter street names. Okay, and the way this field works is obviously if you type in, let's say, Capitol Street. All right, I typed Capitol, and this is the one field that has an automatic wildcard. You don't have to put the asterisks here. So it came up with 13 matches. Okay, and there we go, Capitol, but we have Capitol Avenue, Capitol Terrace, obviously Capitol Street, Capitol Square Place. So they do have lots of capitals there. I can cut it down a little further by doing prefix. What if I'm looking at North Capitol? All right, there we go. We have North Capitol Street. Okay. Where we can get them all there. Or if I wanted to do Capitol Street, capital space ST. Okay, and there we have Capitol Street. Obviously, there's north and east. Okay. But let's get to where I was going with this. Single letter street names. Okay. Obviously, that's how you search a normal street name, but we have single letter street names in DC. So if I put in C for C Street, right? Let's go to results. What do I get? I get it somewhere. Maybe there's a C Street in here somewhere. I don't see it offhand. But as you see, we have Clydesdale, Chilham, Cathedral, Connecticut. So again, how do you search a single letter street name? Here is how. C space ST if we're looking for C Street. Okay. And there we go. C Street. Now, there's one other way to do this. And let's say there is a C lane, road, court, circle, whichever, which there isn't, by the way, I don't think. How would you do that? You can go C, and by the way, you don't have to capitalize there. I just force a habit. C space. That's it. Put in a C space, and there we go. It brings it up too. So again, that's another way to search single letter street names, which is very prevalent in DC. Okay. Also, more address search fields, just click more. As far as status, select all. Hey, that's great because it used to be you'd have to select all of these separately. Select none, clears them all out. Of course, keep in mind, these 4 default to 180 days. And you'd have to click in here to change them if you want to extend it or get rid of it. But also keep in mind you have these little calendars. You want to do ranges, September 1st through today. And there we go. Easy and quick to put those in, and easy and quick to remove those too by just clicking clear. Okay. Here's your kick out option. This used to be something you had to add at the bottom. I'll talk about this a little later on, but you had to add it down here as an option. Now we've moved it up here. So it's a lot easier to search active under contract. All you have to do is turn it on and off here. Pick lists. These are called, I call these pick lists. Okay. And how do these work? Well, I'm going to search a property. I want it, property has to have an attic or a basement or a breakfast room. Okay. I selected all 3 and you'll see or is selected here. That's a default. So the property has to have either an attic or a basement or a breakfast room. And there are 101 matches, as you notice. But I have some other options down here. What if I click and? What happens? Well, I get one match because this property, that one property down there, has an attic. It also has a basement and it has a breakfast room. So that means all of these with an and. Now, not means the opposite. I'm looking for a property without an attic, without a basement, without a breakfast room. Obviously, vast majority are down here. Okay. Now, what if you change your mind? Okay. You say, I want to clear this out without starting over. How do you clear that last entry? Because you can always get it down to one entry, right? Just clicking. How do you clear that last entry out? Control click clears that out. Okay. Control click clears it out just like that. Keep in mind, you can search end of road townhouses and interior. It doesn't matter. Make sure you select them both. Okay. Now, the rest of these are pretty easy to understand, but down here I've added another field. It's called remarks. All right. And to add it, it's fairly simple. Let's say there's a field. Let's go back here. There's a field you want to search by up here, and it's not here. you can add it at the bottom. This is our standard setup, but it may not have everything you want. So you click here and add it at the bottom. Now, obviously, these are all the fields, and you can search for it or scroll or search for it. Okay. Now, public remarks and agent private remarks are two different fields. You may search either one of those, but I think it's a lot easier just to add remarks public and private. That way, it'll search both of them at the same time. So highlight it, click add. It'll move it from the available fields to selected fields. And of course, I got this because it was already there. It's just telling me it was already there. So you might say, why would I search remarks? Because there are occasions when there's something about the property, maybe it's unique, and there's no field for that option. But you want the public to know that this is available with this property. Let me give you an example. How about a property with an apartment? Okay. Because I know people sometimes are looking for properties that might have a separate apartment with it, but there is no field for that. So the agent puts it in remarks. So how would you find it? To search remarks, you would have to put an asterisk and then spell it, and then another asterisk. Now you might wonder why I have an asterisk at the beginning and end, because apartment, we don't know where the name apartment appears in the remarks. Is it at the beginning? Is it at the middle? Is it at the end? We have no idea, and it could vary from listing to listing. So by putting an asterisk at the beginning and end, it says find it anywhere it is in remarks. Okay, so I've entered that, and it says 155 matches, but I know I've been in here before and I've looked, and sometimes condos, they might call them apartments, that type of thing. So let's add detached. Okay, so now we have 24 matches that have the name apartment in the listing somewhere. So if I went to results, and it's sometimes kind of hard to find. Okay, let's see, let's go down, let's just pick one at random. All right, and look at remarks. Oh boy, they have a lot of remarks here. Okay, but somewhere in here, I'm just going to do a quick glance. There's something that says remarks. Now, it may not be a separate apartment. That's the thing. But there it is. Turn into an apartment. There's the word. So that's why I came. Enjoy extra storage space in the attic or turn it into an apartment. So obviously, this one doesn't have a separate apartment. It's just saying, hey, you could perhaps use the space and turn it into an apartment. It's not there now. That's the only thing about this. Putting in a word, sometimes putting in a phrase will find it, but you got to be real careful if you're putting in a phrase, because the phrase has to exactly duplicate what the remark says, and that can be hard. So it's better to put in a single word. But as you see in this case, there is not an apartment there. It's just saying, hey, you could build one out. Okay, so that's how kind of that works. All right, let's go back to our criteria here, and I'm going to clear this. Actually, no, let's leave that. All right. And what did we get? We have, let's go to result 24. Actually, no, let's go back. I want to do something else first. Okay. I'm going to, there we go. Reset it. Easy way to reset. Let's talk about map search. All right. You can put in a location or an address here. So let's say, whoops, let's put in Greenbelt Metro Station. Right, there it is, found it, click here. I want to look for a property within a mile of the Greenbelt Metro Station. Okay, there are 10. Let's look at the map. And there they are. Now, you're you're not tied down to the drop down menu here. Okay. What if you want to go to a mile and a half? Well, there is no mile and a half here. It goes from 1 to 2, but if you can put in right here 1.5. All right, that takes us up to from 10 to 22 matches. There's a mile and a half from the Greenbelt Metro Station. And actually, once you're here, you can move it yourself. See, move it in and out, hold down your left mouse, put it wherever you want. Okay. All right, there's about 1 mile. All right, so I can search here. Now, back here, I can only do one search. Once I'm on this page, though, I can do more than that. I can jump to another one. And I hit enter. The other one did a self-search, but here I did an enter here and to bring up the Landover Metro Station. All right, and then I can draw my circle this way. Click here, put your cursor here, hold down your left mouse, drag it out how far you want. Let's do a mile. There we go. So there are properties within a mile of that. All right. Now I could put in another address here and find another metro station, but if you scroll down close enough, you will see the metro stations. Let's see. There it is. Largo Town Center Metro Station. It's right here. So I could then actually, without searching for it, put my cursor here and scroll out here this way till I get my 1 mile or whatever. There we go. All right, so I have 3 metro stations marked. So you're not limited to circles, by the way. You have these particular shapes. Okay, rectangles, polygons. Oh, got to click on it again. Has to turn to a color up there. That way you know it's active. And you have what are called freehand polygons. Hold down your left mouse and drag it. Okay, there we go. Let me show you a little trick here. Let's say you're searching in this area. Let's get a little closer. And University Park, Riverdale, but let's say you want to search everything but University Park. You want to eliminate the houses here. Okay. Draw another rectangle inside, just like that. And put your cursor there, and it says exclude this shape. So if I click there, those houses are going to disappear and not be part of the search. There you go. So something else you can do with those shapes. You can also erase everything, clear all shapes. So let's talk about INRIX drive time. You ever have a client that says, hey, I want a property. I don't want to, I don't want to search, or I don't want to drive too far. Let's say they work at Andrews Air Force Base. I've been around this area a while. Joint Base Andrews. Actually, I lived all my life around this area. So Joint Base, and I still can't get used to the name. Joint Base Andrews. Hit enter. All right, it found it. Okay. And let's say they have to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. And they don't want to drive more than 30 minutes. And they drive it when? Monday through Friday. You can select any Mondays through Friday, but it also allows to see what kind of distance they can live from that location for a 30-minute commute on a Saturday or Sunday. Sunday mornings, traffic's the lightest. They'll be able to live a little further out. But let's leave it on Monday, okay? And there we go. As soon as it decides to readjust, it's still thinking here. There we go. So it's showing where they could live and still commute, a 30-minute commute from Andrews Air Force Base. Obviously, I don't have Charles. I don't have Northern Virginia on the map. There's probably a little bit of either Calvert or Anne Arundel. That's Anne Arundel, I guess, over there. So it's not going to show those because I didn't have that as part of my search. But as you can see, there's extensively quite a few areas they could live and still have a 30-minute commute. Now, what if there is somebody else that lives in the same household and they say, well, 30-minute commute, that's fine for you. What about me? They work on Capitol Hill. She can't type today. There we go. It's O. It corrected my spelling. That's good. They don't have to be there till 8:30. They want a 30-minute commute. They work Monday through Friday. So it's added a second layer, right? And they cross over. Okay. Now, where do you want to look? You want to look in this crossover area, right? Because that would give each person a 30-minute commute. Let me show you a little trick here. All right, obviously, well, let me show you a trick here. Let's put my cursor here, and you see where it says, whoops, there we go. Include intersection only. Click there. Okay, and now I'm going to scroll in a bit. Now you can see kind of, I need to cut down on the number of properties there. Make it a little easier to see. Let's see, I'll throw in 4 bedrooms. We'll throw in detached. That cuts them down. There we go. And let's go back to the map. And there you go. So as you see, it is looked in the intersection only. Obviously, I don't have Northern Virginia in here and anywhere else. It's kind of off the map. So that is an option. It's kind of neat. You can just get the intersection and basically cover the base for 2 people at the same time. Okay. All right, now I have that. Let's go to results. Before we run out of time, we're bumping up against the clock, but let's talk about changing this display. Okay, this is your standard Agent 1 line. You can move columns. Now this resorts. Okay, I think you know that. If you click here, low to high, high to low. It's going to be a little slow, I see. There we go. But if you move it away and don't have the hand, have the 4-way arrow, hold down your left mouse, and you can drag and drop it, just like that. So you can move any column you want just by dragging and dropping. In fact, I prefer it over here. Okay. You also can remove columns. Again, get the 4-way arrow, left click, click remove column. It removes columns. So again, 4-way arrow, left click, opens up this menu, remove column. You can also insert a column. 4-way arrow, click, insert column. Okay, you can insert whatever column you want here, and you can search for it if you need to. So for instance, I'm going to put DOM, days on market, and I'm going to use this one. All right, click apply. And now we've added days on market. Let's add one more. Insert column. We're going to add this one, above grade finished square footage. Click apply. There's above grade finished square footage, except it takes up a lot of room, doesn't it? But you can modify it. Again, 4-way arrow, open this up, and you can retitle this. Okay, I'm going to get rid of above grade finish because I know it is. Click apply. And now, and it works kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. Put your cursor here, get a double red arrow, hold down your left mouse, drag the column over. So now I've reset the spreadsheet. Okay. And if I leave, bright, sign off, it's gone, right? So I want to save this because I want to access it in the future. Over here, next to the gear, it says manage display. And I need to title it. A title that will remind me what is unique about this. What's unique? Square footage and days on market, right? So I'm going to put square footage days on market. That's what I'm going to call it. And I'm going to say save as a copy. Okay. So it doesn't matter what I'm on, what format I'm using. Anytime I want to access it, it'll be up here. There it is. That's the one we just created. Click here, and it brings us right to it. One step further though, if you prefer this as your default, that's when you use the gear. Click here, say current display, sort order, and count per page as my search starting default. And now that is your default. To show you, run a quick search here, go to results, and there you go. So it is the default now. Okay. Now, if you change your mind, okay, up here, reset to system search defaults. It's reset to what's called agent one line. Okay. And you can always, anytime you're using this, so for instance, if we're back on the search screen and you want to reset it to default, same thing here. Reset to system search defaults will clear out those counties or whatever else you have set. So you can always reset it back to the system defaults by clicking the gear and clicking the second line. All right, I see it is 1:30. Do I have any questions?
Well, Steve, I'd like to thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I'm really glad to hear that you pointed out what the question marks were for, so that many of those things that you went through with us, we can actually go back and check ourselves to see what they are. So that was really helpful for me. That was one thing that I picked up, because I've listened to you several times doing this. And I always say when I get to it, how did Steve say to do that? So now I know I can go to the question to get the answer.
Yeah, there's a lot I cover in a short amount of time, but yeah, it's hard to keep up, I know. But I hold a once a week training for the association, and those trainings, you can always look them up here under support. Actually, and I do Remine, I do tips and tricks or 1 hour trainings. But if you go under support and you go down to training here, and you will find, as soon as it comes up, everything's a little slow off and on, I've noticed today. So we go down to Prince George's County. There we go. Open that up, and there's my training for next week is, hey, it's Remine, Remine Pro. It's about 45, 50 minutes. I'll talk about a few of the other things that Remine has besides what we covered today. So it will be not only a repeat of what I do today, but it'll have some additional things. And if you're interested in joining, right there, make sure you copy this link, paste it, and that's how you register. Don't click view details and register there, because that doesn't register you. You'll get this screen instead. And that's where you can register. So you're welcome to attend any of those. I rotate through about 5 different trainings. So about once a month, it's a different training.
Excellent as always, Steve. Thank you for being with us today. We're looking forward to you coming back the next time. You guys, this video will be uploaded for you on Porterhouse International Realty Group's YouTube channel, so that you can go back and listen to it a few more times, because as we always know, there's a lot of great information, and you can dive a little bit more deeply when you have that, and you can just rewind it as many times as you need to. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and release us for today. It's a few minutes after 1:30. Steve, phenomenal as always. Thanks so much. If you guys need anything, just give me a call. All right.
Sounds good. We'll see you later.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Thank you.